There are a few things that must be booked as you're planning your Ireland vacation. In today's podcast, I'm putting them all in one place. Hi, thanks so much for joining me again here on the Traveling in Ireland podcast. Today, I have a podcast listener question. But before I jump into that, I'm going to give you this travel tip. Staying connected during your Ireland vacation is super important. Whether you need to keep in touch with family and friends, or you just want to share those amazing images that you've been taking in all the beautiful spots you visited. Every time I'm in Ireland, I use Wi-Fi candy. When I travel with my family or a group of people, I use the portable Wi-Fi device because you can hook up 10 different devices to it at one time. And when I travel solo, I order the eSIM, and that runs data so I can use any map or utilize my email or digital apps like Skype or WhatsApp to make phone calls. You can check out Wi-Fi Candy for connectivity during your trip at irelandfamilyvacations.com/Wi-Fi, WIFI. And don't forget to use my exclusive code IFV2024 to save 10% on orders over €20. So I received a terrific question from Erin L. And though I've touched on this subject kind of in bits in past episodes, I wanted to share it all in one spot. And her question was, what do you have to book ahead of time? And what can you leave to chance in pursuit of authentic, relaxed Ireland experiences? I think this is a really great question, especially when you think about like the last episode where we talked about decluttering an itinerary. You want to be able to have the flexibility in your day to follow that path less traveled, but there are also some things that you really do have to plan for in advance. So let's talk about those. The first thing that you have to uh, take care of in advance are your accommodations, especially if you are traveling anytime from May to mid October, or if you want to be sure that you are in or near a certain area. Because Ireland has a huge amount, I think it's around 100,000 displaced people that are being housed right now, and they're in hotels and hostels, some B&Bs. So accommodations are very limited. Now, this is May of 2024 when this is being recorded. So you can keep that in mind. But because of the way people can move through the EU and the popularity of Ireland, I really don't see a lot of this changing with the need to book accommodations in advance in the next like 5 to 7 years. So keep that in mind. If your plans include a castle stay, I recommend booking that as soon as you know the dates that you want to stay. Castle hotels, especially the really popular ones. So we're talking Dromoland, Ashford. Um, oh gosh, there's one over in County Kildare that I am forgetting the name of right now. But it's really close to Dublin, so it books up really, really quickly. Even Loch Esk in Donegal, which is one of my personal favorites, those all book quickly, and they'll book up with tour groups. So while there may be a cancellation closer to the day you're traveling, you can't guarantee it. So if you want to stay in a castle, book that as soon as you know the dates. There are a few attractions that must be pre-booked. We've talked about the two in Dublin, the Book of Kells and Kilmainham Jail. At Kilmainham, remember that bookings open 28 days in advance of your visit at midnight Irish time. Book of Kells is just, the lines can get very, very long, and you don't want to spend your vacation waiting in a line. If you want to visit the Passage Tomb at Newgrange, that needs to be booked in advance, and bookings open 30 days in advance of your visit at midnight Irish time. And in the north, Titanic Belfast can book out very easily. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, the Game of Thrones studio tour will fill up. Carrick Reed Rope Bridge requires pre-booking if you plan to cross the bridge, and the Gobbins Cliff Walk also requires pre-booking. Now, while you don't have to pre-book at the Giant's Causeway, if you plan to include the visitor center in your time there and you want a close parking spot, I recommend booking that in advance as well. Now, experiences. So we're talking about tours, tastings, hands-on activities like cooking, baking, crafting, and then of course falconry should always be pre-booked. If you're traveling in the busy high season, you are going to want to schedule these as soon as you are sure of the date to avoid disappointment. And sometimes you can get lucky and schedule a week in advance depending on the activity and the location. Another thing that you need to keep in mind if you want to visit the Skellig Islands, these are off the Ring of Kerry. There are a limited number of boats and a limited number of people that can travel onto those in a given day. Those experiences can cancel due to weather. So you want to not only book those in advance, but I would also caution you to build in an extra day in the area just to be safe. Now, any show type of experience, be it a medieval banquet, Irish dance, or storytelling, you need to book those in advance as well. Those are incredibly popular, and again, tour groups will book into those months in advance. So once you know the date that you want to experience that, get it on your calendar. You do maybe want to be a little bit flexible as you are looking to book that experience. And finally, if there is a restaurant that you simply must dine at, book that as well. Another tip would be to, if you have a large group, so if you're traveling with a multi-generational family group and we're talking like 8 people or more, go ahead and book dining reservations for large groups as well, especially in popular areas. So Dublin, Galway, Killarney, Doolin, things like that. Go ahead and get those on the books as well so you can get everybody in all at once. So I hope that these tips have helped you with your own planning, knowing what you need to book in advance and helping you to create an itinerary that has a good flow to it. So you have your booked things and then you have the things that you can just kind of take it as they come, right? Now, I want to remind you, if you have an Ireland travel question, you can always email it to me. That would be to Jody, Jody, at IrelandFamilyVacations.com. Write podcast question in the subject line. You can also message me on Instagram or Facebook at Ireland Family Vacations. And don't forget to let me know how I can give you a shout out as a thank you for sending in your question. Thank you so much for listening today. And until next time, slán go fóill.